Hello and welcome back to the SPRO video channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the facial recognition technology you can find in our AI Pro recorders. We'll discuss the difference between facial detection and facial recognition, take you through how to create a database of faces, demonstrate how the system reacts to both known and unknown targets, as well as showing you the features the system picks up about a person. And we'll then dive into how to set up a facial recognition system, including discussing how playback and notifications work. Usually, both the camera and recorder has to support face recognition, but we're going to be using an A4 NVR today, and with the A4 we can utilize what's called AI by recorder. In doing so, we allow for any IP camera, 4 megapixels or less, to work as part of a facial recognition system. So with this unit, as well as the 8-channel V2, we can rely on the NVR's AI to provide detection and recognition functionality and leave them to do all of the work. However, because the recorder is responsible for the face recognition, the amount of other AI features are limited when using it. On this recorder, for example, you're limited to 1 channel of face detection, but I would suggest contacting your sales advisor if you intend to use other AI features on your system to see what the limitations are. We do recommend that you have a dedicated system for face recognition where possible. Now, as I mentioned, it's a facial recognition system we're ultimately going to be setting up and demonstrating today. And it's important to realize that face detection and face recognition are different things. There are a lot of cameras out there these days that do face detection, but those aren't doing much more than capturing an image of a face when it sees one, and therefore on its own doesn't add much to a security system, because even a standard CCTV system will record a face, although of course it does so by recording everything in the image. However, with SPRO, you can put together an effective facial recognition system that will actually learn and recognize the features of a face. So the difference between facial detection and facial recognition is the difference between detecting that a face is present and recognizing whose face it is. But they do go hand in hand, because to get facial recognition, you've got to have facial detection first. You need to be able to detect a face before you can recognize it. This should make more sense as we go through how to set up the system, so let's go through that now. Now, the first thing to remember when setting up a facial recognition system is that we're using the NVR's AI, and so we don't need to enable Smart Plan. Instead, we'll go to face detection, because you have to detect a face before you can recognize it, enable it on the channel where we have the camera we want to use for facial detection, make sure AI by recorder is selected, and click apply. Then for the recognition side of things, you'll do much the same. Go to face recognition, again select the camera you want to use for recognition and enable, make sure AI by recorder is selected and click apply. And at that point you've got facial detection and recognition set up. There's really only one other setting you might want to take a look at. If you go back to face detection and here where it says rule, if you go into its settings, this is where you can change the minimum and maximum face size the system is looking for. By default, minimum will be this size and maximum will be this size. You would change this most commonly if you're picking up faces that are too far away. And if that happens, you can increase the minimum size, so they would need to get closer to the camera before it picks them up. Remember, you're only defining the size of the face you're looking for here, not the location. This is a good time to point out that in order for the camera to pick up a face, it needs to see someone moving. This would normally take the form of someone walking towards the camera. This is a security feature to stop people simply using a static image of a face to try and trick the cameras. As I'm standing here now, it wouldn't detect me, but as I walked up, it would. Once you've got facial recognition set up, the system's going to start picking up faces and will keep a running list of the faces it's detected. The best way to find out exactly what's been captured is by going to the AI search menu. Let's show you how to do that now. Click AI, AI search, face detect, select the channel you're looking for, click search, and it will find the faces that have been picked up. As you can see, the system will also pick up a number of attributes about each person: gender, age, facial expression, etc. All these faces are stored in the system and will still be stored even if you clear recently detected faces from the live view.
For example, if we go to live view by right clicking and then clicking live, you'll see the most recently detected faces. And should you decide you want to clear this list, right click again to go back to the main menu, click this icon and reboot. When we go back to the live view, as you can see, the recently detected faces are gone, but rest assured they are still stored in the system in the face detection section. If we right click to go back and go to face recognition and click search, you'll see there are currently no faces here. Let's address that now by setting up a database of known people to get an idea of how that process works.
Let's show you how you might want to set up a database, and let's imagine we're simply setting up a staff database for an office building. We'll obviously want to allow staff to enter the building, but restrict access to any non-staff. Let's go through how you do that.
Click AI, Database, and you'll be on Face Database Config. We'll make sure our type is set to local because it's a local database held on the NVR, and click Add. It wants us to give it a name, so let's just call it Staff, for example, and click OK, and you can see it's been created. So what we're going to do is add someone to the database that is picked up already. If we go to AI Search, Face Detect, and search on the correct channel, you'll see next to each picture of a face that's been picked up, we've got an Add to Face Database button. If we click that, it will allow us to add in a name. We can also add in things like gender, date of birth, the region that they're in, etc. And once we've added the name in, it shows me the reference picture and gives me the option for the database I want to add it to. But since we've only got one option, we'll just click the staff database and OK. It comes up with operation succeeded, and I'm now added to the face database. Right click and go to database, and you can see that we've got one registration in there now. And if we go into details, it will show me there, and modeling succeeded. Now that we've got a person in our database, we can amend the settings if need be. If we right click and then go back to parameters and select face recognition, we're going to select the desired database, so the staff database, and click OK. And you'll see we can set what the similarities between the reference picture and the face being detected needs to be by clicking Modify. By default, it's set to need to be at least an 80% match to actually recognize me. If I lower it, it may potentially get me confused with someone else. Higher though will make it more secure, but may make it difficult to gain entry. To playback footage related to facial recognition, go to AI Search, Face Recognition, check the channel you're looking for, and click Search. Select the video clip related to that event and click Play. It's worth pointing out that if a face is recognised, you will only be able to see it here in the recognition section. You won't also see it in face detection. This should mean in detection you have a list of unknown people, and in recognition a list of known people. Let's also look at how the user of the system is going to be notified of these events. The user will be notified of all face detections, both known and unknown, and with these push notifications, you'll also receive an example of the reference photo it's comparing against and the picture it's just taken. If it recognises someone, it will say Oliver detected, for example, and show the relevant reference photo. Let's now run through some of our recommendations for how you can ensure you're getting the most out of the face recognition system and reducing any potential problems you might encounter. When it comes to the installation height for a face detection or recognition system, we usually suggest to be about 2.5 meters high if you're expecting the faces you're detecting to be approximately 3 meters away. A common mistake we see is people installing the cameras too high, where you can mostly see the tops of people's heads, and this obviously has a detrimental effect on how well the system detects faces. Now, ideally, you want to have a dedicated camera just for facial recognition. It just makes everything easier, including the load on the NVR. We suggest using AI by recorder, as we've discussed, and we suggest using it only in relatively low traffic environments.
We also recommend using a static camera for face detection rather than something like a PTZ. And as we've already briefly discussed, you are going to need to bear in mind that in using AI by recorder, you are going to be limited in terms of other AI features. But the higher up the spec you go, the more intrusion zones, tripwires, and other AI features you can use with face detection. So I would suggest checking with your sales advisor to discuss your requirements and what the right recorder for your application would be. So there you have it. We've looked at the difference between facial detection and facial recognition, gone through how to create a database of faces, demonstrated how the system reacts to both known and unknown targets, as well as showing you the features the system picks up. There are many different applications for such a technology, and its addition can greatly enhance any security system. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe so you don't miss any future videos from us here at SPRO.